what's up? I'm out for a drive. But this is my review about the MST Performance Intake. Oh, snaps. Yo, they add stop signs to this road I'm on. I'm telling you, I'm not even lying. These joints just be popping up, and I've been on this road long enough. That's the new stop sign. Anyways, this is my review on the MST version 2. Let me turn this air conditioning down. This is my review on the version 2 of the MST Performance Intake. Now, I've been driving it. I've been loving it. It feels great. So let me just give you my feedback. Let me tell you what I think. Let me tell you what I think compared to the V1. So let's get to it. All right, there we go. MST version 2 GR Corolla Intake. Now, let me just flip y'all around. Hello, it's me again. Let me just say, okay, so I've been driving the car, right? So I've been driving it. As you can see behind me, I've been enjoying the intake. It feels good. I like how it drives. So really the question that is gonna be on anybody's mind who's wondering, following any of the videos I have, is what do I think about this version 2 intake? And I have things I love, I have things I miss on the version 1, and we're gonna get into that real quick. Let's jump in. Right off the bat, I love how this looks better. And if you hear cars in the background, it's because I'm right next to I-10. So anyways, right off the bat, this intake, this whole shroud thing we got going on that goes into the box right here, I love all of that. To me, all that's fire. This is like the best thing about this whole entire setup. To me, I think this is what sells this whole entire kit. When anybody sees this kit, most of the time they're gonna see this whole entire shroud system and think, okay, this is why I want this intake. So that's dope, right? That's the part that I like the most. The little shroud part, the intake. Now, performance, right? So MST says this gets about 18 horsepower, probably peak right at the top of the RPM range. I think 6,000 RPMs. The version 1 was similar. I think the version 1 was around 14 horsepower at the peak, about 6,000. And I'm gonna throw the numbers up here on the screen somewhere so you can see what version 1 was doing and version 2 does according to MST Performance. Now, let me say this, okay? I haven't dynoed the car, right? I have my unscientific, scientific butt dyno tells me that it does feel a teensy bit peppier, right? And my 10-year-old son, he said the same thing. We went to drive the car. He told me, hey, Dad, it feels like it's faster. And I'm like, you know what? That's all we need, right? See, sometimes modifying a car for me isn't really about exact numbers. It's about the fun of modifying and changing something, hearing the sounds, trying to find out if you feel the difference. That's what I enjoy. It's like a puzzle piece, right? So anyways, the version 1, like I said, I threw the numbers up there. So the version 2 right now is performing, if not better, it's performing the same. So I'm not losing anything. I don't lose any power. I don't feel like it's doing anything wrong. There is no check engine light, okay? For anybody wondering about this, the MST V2 has that version 2 of the CEL fix. I'll throw the video up here. I did a video on it, me installing it. Quick, easy. It's been flawless for tens of thousands of miles, so you are good to go. Now, what is it? Let's talk about some of the differences, right? So if you remember, version 1 had nothing here. It was open element, and I'll snap in a picture so you can see somewhere around here what it used to look like. So that was version 1, this is version 2. Now, if you have a circuit edition hood, I think this would probably make you happier than the version 1, because there is a concern from some people that the version 1 would allow water to get inside the motor because it's open, and if you have the circuit hood, the vents here can let water travel in and get into the shroud that was on the V1. Now, I'll be honest, I was never the person that thought that the V1 intake would be a hazard for water. I always said I mean, don't submerge your front end, okay, and you'll be fine. But if you were to be concerned about that, if you were thinking, hey, I don't want to have to deal with that, then version 2 is better, okay? So anyways, back to what I was saying. All right, so version 1 would work better. Version 2 would work better if you have a circuit hood or a vented hood, if you did your own thing, or aftermarket hood, and you're worried about water getting inside of the intake. This is completely covered. This also, if you feel like right here, most of this, right, you can feel like the warmth of the plastic right here, feel right there. That was hot, my gosh. Okay, you feel the warmth around the intake, right? So then if you had the V1, you would assume that the warmer air would be coming into the engine, and you are correct to that. I will say, here's what I will say. I didn't have the car with V1, and I was driving it pretty much everywhere, right? But I never had a problem with feeling like the engine started bogging down as the heat went up, and I live in Texas, so I dealt with 100-degree plus weather, and I ran that intake perfectly fine. But cooler air is most definitely getting into the engine now. That's why I said it might feel a teensy bit peppier, okay? Cooler air is getting in there, okay? Because now everything is enclosed. So if you're looking at what if you see there, all that being enclosed means all the air is coming down into this intake part. The shroud area is right here in this intake, goes in there, air forces itself into the intake right there with the filter. So better design for airflow coming in. Now, if you're concerned about water, it's not like it's completely sealing all the air channel in there. So if water and rain was forcing itself in here, it still has areas to dissipate. So don't worry about water making its way all the way into this box right here, okay? So here's one of the things that you will get with this intake. One is it's gonna be a little bit quieter. And that might not be the thing that you want to hear if you're coming from the V1, but it is quieter because nothing is open. Now, could you take this little cover off? Absolutely. If you took this cover off, it would be like the K&N air filter that has an open closed element and then the kind of an open portion of it. I figure if I'm gonna have this whole thing enclosed, let's just have it enclosed, right? Also, less times you have to clean it, less times you have to worry about dirt getting in there. So I figure if you're gonna go this route for the whole entire enclosed thing, then just keep it enclosed. Now if you want the sound of the V1, you gotta go get the V1, right? The V1 intake is the one that sounds the best, right? So if you're thinking about, hey man, I don't wanna lose the sound I get when I'm driving the car, then do not get the V2. And there is my con. I really love the way the V1 sounded. And just as far as the turbo flutter, the spooling, the engine noise, the intake induction, I do miss that portion of it. Like this one is nice because now I hear more of the exhaust and I hear more of the engine, but I do miss that sound. I do miss that kind of visceral sound that was coming in. So if you're a person like me and you're like, yo, I like the sound of the intake, I want to hear the blow off valve, I want to hear the flutter, I want to hear all those things, then I would say you don't want to go the V2 one. Even though I'm a proponent of the V2, I'm just saying you don't want to go that route if you like the sound of the V1 or you're looking for an intake, because there are some people that they want to get an intake for the noise. Like, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think we get knocked and people bash other people because they think, yo, if you're not after performance, then what are you doing? Some of this is just experience. I want to hear the car. The exhaust on this car isn't going to add X amount of horsepower. It's not that much. And the intake is going to add a certain amount at the peak amount. But the sound, the way it sounds, the way it looks, the way it feels, I mean, some of that you can't put a price tag on. It's not quantifiable. It's just what I want to experience and have fun with. So if I was to have a con, it's going to be I miss the sound. Now, here's some other benefits too of this intake. Another benefit of this intake, and I'm trying to hold this camera somewhere because it's so hot. There's an opening right here. See my hand went all the way in there? So what they say is that because it's channeling all the air from the front of this car, it's also forcing air over here. Now, I'll be honest with you. As this is where the intake manifold is, and you can see the throttle body down there, you can see the alternator. The air is just kind of being forced onto the motor. Now, maybe, just maybe, they think it forces here, comes out here, and then it kind of shoots down there to the back of where the turbo is. Back there in the rear, where the turbo and the downpipe start. Maybe. I'm not saying this is true. I'm just saying there's an opening here. Air rushes in here. It probably either just starts helping to cool off this area, cool off this here, maybe force air there, or if you have a circuit edition hood, I would imagine it could force air here, push hot air out, and then get into the vents there. I don't have a single bit of proof to say that that is exactly what's happening. But if you just use your common sense and think air forcing in, it's going over the engine cover, over the engine, forcing itself out. Now, for people that are friends of mine that have a circuit edition, you can see the heat coming out of them vents, especially if you remove the rain guards. Air and heat rises, so heat's gonna make its way out of those vents. So there's the benefit, again, to the cooling of the engine and removing as much heat as you can, because now that that shroud is there, now that it's actually, let me show you what I'm saying. Now that it's forcing air to go from this side into the motor and over to the cover, then it's gonna force air to go out of the hood, okay? So that's the benefit. The V1, like I said, won't have that setup. You'll end up just with what you have here in the open element. Another benefit too, you really can't see it. And you would have to go to my install video to see the pipe itself. But all the way in the back, the pipe now is bolted down into a bracket on the back of the motor. So you really get no, you see me shaking this, right? That's just me shaking the cup. But this right here, this is not, I'm trying to do it fast, it's hot. This ain't moving, okay? That's all sealed tightly because there's a bolt that holds it to the back of the bracket going down into the last turbo inlet pipe that goes into the turbo. So the construction, another great thing. This matches so closely. I mean, it's dead on. Look at this plastic, look at that plastic. Matches perfectly. That is one of those things that some fans, some people, we want that aesthetic. See this plastic? See how it look at matches. Matches this plastic even down to the pipe. So that type of clean OEM plus look, that is what I wanted. I wanted to have the matching plastic, and that is really why I like this shroud. I didn't want to get carbon fiber. Some people want the carbon fiber shroud, rain guards, things like that. That's cool. I prefer this. And nobody else is making an intake like this. There is a few other more robust setups, some like Group M. You have Aventura, obviously the big carbon fiber one that everybody's known for a while. But as far as like this aesthetic and this look, you really can't beat the price point and the people in the work that MST Performance does when it comes to this car. Like I said, I love it. You don't gotta like it. But if you're thinking about getting one of these, right? If you're like, I wanna get one of these intakes. I wanna see what it's like. I wanna enjoy the car like you are. I would say go and get one of these intakes, especially because, like I said, you're gonna clean up the engine bay. So if you go to car shows and stuff, it looks really cool when you open the hood. That is the thing. It performs well, like I said. It just feels better. I'm not even, I can't, you gotta drive both of them back to back to see what I'm talking about, but it feels better. So it feels better, it's driving better, it installs easy. You saw my video, easy to install, no problems putting that on. And you get all the other benefits, the cooling of the engine, cooler air going to the intake, better dissipation of heat if you have a vented hood. I will have my circuit hood on here soon enough, so don't you worry. All in all, I love it. Let me give you some sound clips. I'm gonna put up the tripod. I'm gonna rev the motor so you can kind of hear what I hear, or you'll hear more on the outside. So let's go ahead and do that. here's what I'm gonna do next. I'm gonna drive the car kind of past the camera, so hopefully you can maybe pick up the sounds on the outside with the hood closed, or see what it sounds like when you're driving by. I'm gonna do my best, okay? Don't expect, you know, the greatest amount of sound, but I'm gonna do something, okay? I guess the question everybody's gonna have is, should they buy an MST version 2 intake? Well, I can't answer that for you because things cost money. But here's what I will say. Version 1 is excellent, okay? And version 2 is also excellent. And they have their pros and their cons. Version 1 is open element. Some people don't like that look. They don't want more hot air coming into the motor, and there's some warm air. I do say it's negligible, and I do think the shroud around it when you close the hood helps out a lot. Some people don't want the risk or the fear of water from the hood or from any aftermarket hood or the circuit hood getting onto the shroud or maybe making its way into the filter. So the version 2 is better because it's enclosed, and that's what they want. And I can't say it's better from an engineering standpoint because they put more thought into the shroud, the airflow, the air going over the motor, cooling off the engine, cooling off the intake, everything being enclosed, the safety of it from water and things of that nature. So it is better in that regard, and that's why it costs more money. But if you're looking for like what should you get if you have outright performance on your mind, and you're like, what's the best bang for your buck? It's honestly going to be version 1 because it is the less. I had mine on the car for thousands of miles, and I never had an issue. I didn't lose any power. I never felt like it was bogging down from the heat. I never worried about rain. I drove in the rainstorms of Texas, which, you know, those are wild. And I never had an issue with water or anything like that. So for me, it's worth it even for version 1. And if you have the means to go to 2 for those benefits, it's worth it for that too. So give it a shot. And one other thing. I'm gonna sit down real quick. So I do realize, and I like to say this stuff too, I do realize I'm in a privileged position to be able to try out all these intakes. And so obviously when somebody's thinking about what they should get or what they should do, really my opinion on it is really starts at how much are you willing to spend for the part. And that's why I said that the version 1 and the version 2 equal as far as a level of engineering relative to the amount that they cost. But if you're a person that's like, I don't want to spend that much, then don't. Okay, don't just go get the V2 because I'm saying it and that somebody else is saying it and it looks cool. Go for what makes sense. Listen, if it was me and I was like, you know what, I don't want to spend a lot, the version 1 is one of the best intakes, and many people have it on their car. It's not just me. Nemtech Racing, those guys have it on their car. Friends of mine have it on their car. So it has proven its worth and it's proven its performance across many other cars and many miles for people. So don't knock it. Give it a shot and try it. And if you don't like that, if you want to just go for something that's more OEM plus in a way, even more so than what I said for the V2 version for how I view OEM plus, and everybody's is different. They have the Velosa, I think it's a Veloso Tech air snorkel piece that you can put onto the OEM box to help with cooler air going into that. So that is very good too, because the OEM box flows air very well. The aftermarket ones flow it a little bit better, and a lot of that's pertaining to the pipe that's in the back. But there are kits from like Blitz and other companies that make just the piping in the back that goes towards the turbo that you can increase and you can change. So you got options. Look around, check out what you got. Until then, like and subscribe, and holla at your boy when you see me in the streets. All right, peace.